Yeah.
I gave you a kiss.
Yeah, cool. So we're starting class now. Nobody's tuned in. Starting a little bit late today because maybe people are sleeping in and we haven't been having the biggest turnout. Naratim's giving me cuddles and kisses. Love you.
Love you.
Got one person on Facebook. So today I'm giving class. I'm just sharing it on my Facebook page today. Thought we'd start later in case people are sleeping in. How do I share? All right. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 30, entitled The Status Quo, text number 3. I can pull it up on the screen. Sorry for the delay. All right, there we go. Yad advrvasya dehasya sanubandasya dharmatihi druvani manyate mohad grihashetravasunicha. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which in relationship to the body are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. I'll do the synonyms. Yat, because adruvasya, temporary. Dehasya, of the body. Sa anubandasya, with that which is related. Dharmati, he, a misguided person. Druvani, permanent. Manyate, thinks. Mohat, because of ignorance. Griha, home. Kshetra, land. Vasuni, wealth. Cha, and translation again. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent and that the attraction, no, don't touch that, of home.
Stop. I just wanted to bow.
Of home, you can't touch it. No, Jiva, you can't touch the microphone.
I just like to bow.
Can you take Jiva?
Daddy,
Nathan went to touch the mic and then Jiva went to touch the mic.
I like bowing it.
Yeah, but not now, Nathan. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. Purport. The materialist thinks that persons engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know that he himself is in the darkest region of craziness because of accepting his body as permanent. And in relation to his body, he accepts his home, his country, his society, and all other paraphernalia as clearly as permanent. This materialistic acceptance of the permanency of home, land, etc. is called illusion. It's called the illusion of Maya. This is clearly mentioned here. Mohad griha kshetra vasuni. Out of illusion only does the materialist accept his home, his land, and his money as permanent. Out of this illusion, the family life, national life, and economic development, which are very important factors in modern civilization, have grown. A Krishna conscious person knows that this economic development of human society is but temporary illusion. In another part of Srimad Bhagavatam, the acceptance of the body as oneself, the acceptance of others as kinsmen in relationship to this body, and the acceptance of the land of one's birth as worshipable are declared to be products of an animal civilization. When, however, one is enlightened in Krishna consciousness, he can use these for the service of the Lord. That is a very suitable proposition. Everything has a relationship with Krishna. When all economic development and material advancement is utilized to advance the cause of Krishna consciousness, a new phase of progressive life arises. Accidentally shifted that. Hang on a sec, let me get the background in the right spot. All right, so in this verse, Prabhupada is talking about how the materialist is misguided and is under the illusion of Maya, which causes him to think that this body is permanent. He accepts his home, his land, and his money as permanent. Out of this illusion, the family life, national life, and economic development, which are very important factors in modern civilization, have grown. A Krishna conscious person knows that this economic development of society is but temporary illusion. So this is a very important point for us as devotees to realize. Materialistic life basically has one, I'll let him out, Nathan. One ultimate goal. You could say it's not really an ultimate goal, it's a temporary goal, but they take as paramount the increasing of your bank account and other materialistic goals. And this creates a problem in society. It creates problems on many levels. It creates problems for the individual because when you're absorbed in materialistic consciousness like that, you're not getting satisfied. Just like, the bird in the cage, if you only feed, if you clean the cage and look after the cage nicely, but don't feed the bird, then the bird's not happy. Or in that analogy, the bird would die. But when we do that, we look after our body, but not the soul, then the soul's not satisfied. I was listening to a class Prabhupada gave this morning, and he said the measure of someone becoming Krishna consciousness is prasanna atma, which means they're joyful. Taking shelter of Krishna should be a joyful process, and it brings a deeper satisfaction. Kind of distracting having the kids coming and going.
No, it's a mystery. You can take.
Yeah, sorry. The kids keep coming and going. It's a bit distracting. But in materialistic life, they just have the one goal of material ameliorations. And on the individual level, that has consequences. But on the societal level, it has consequences, and it has the predictable result of destroying the rainforest and other devastations to the planet. And it's been argued that the death of religion in society has had negative consequences. Atheists aren't so convinced, but I think with this particular point, you can make a pretty strong argument that the secularization of society, the increase of atheism, has devastating consequences to how we care for the planet. In Vedic culture, there's 4 spectrums of goals. In Western civilization, there's one, which is economic or material. But in Vedic society, there was dharma, artha, moksha, and what's the other one? Dharma. Can't remember the 4th one. Maybe someone can put it in the comments. I'll see if I can get the comments up. Yeah, I'll pull it up so I can see the comments. So when you have more levels of analysis, sometimes they can be in tension with one another, but we have to be clear on what the highest one is. There's that famous analogy that a psychology professor gave it to some of his students, and that went around the internet of if you have a jar and you fill it up with sand first, and then pebbles and then stones, the stones won't fit. But if you first put the stones in, then the pebbles, and then the sand, you'll fit a lot more in. And even if you don't fit all the sand in, it doesn't matter, because in that analogy, the big stones refer to the things that are actually important. So you take care of those things first, and then the other things will fit around it. And even if the other things don't fit, they're the unimportant things. So it's not such a big deal. So with this human form of life, the most important thing is that we elevate our consciousness, that we develop our love of God. And by so doing, we make proper use of this human form of life. Whereas when you just have the one layer of analysis, we've got this problem in modern civilization where we've incentivized the destruction of the rainforest. Basically, with human nature, if you can make a buck doing something, somebody will be out there trying to do it, even if it's the most heinous thing you can imagine. And this is because we're under this illusion of the body being permanent, under this illusion of Maya, and we've forgotten what the real goal is. And this is to our... Oh, yeah, someone commented, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Okay, so I was missing the Kama one. So in Western civilization, they've got two of those, Artha and Kama. They're interested in increasing wealth, and they're interested in enjoying their senses. So I guess the mode of ignorance is nothing but trying to enjoy the senses, and the mode of passion is trying to increase your wealth so that you can provide, so that you can purchase nicer or finer sense gratifications. And with moksha, that's the desire for liberation. Even that's materialistic, and dharma is even mundane. With Krishna consciousness, we're going for something even beyond this. We're going for pleasing Krishna, for bhakti, and this is above even dharma. But I think for my point about the way the devastation of the rainforest has been incentivized, I just need to talk about dharma versus artha. When you add more layers of analysis, it's like if you've got one goal and you ignore every other goal, there's going to be trade-offs for the things you do in order to achieve that goal. For example, if you try to make lots of money but you don't care about friendships, you might cheat on all your friends and do all kinds of nasty things in order to achieve a big bank balance. Whereas if you add another layer of analysis, I want to increase my wealth and have strong relationships, but having strong relationships is more important, then you'll achieve two things. And then when we put Krishna consciousness first, we can achieve many things. And as Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, when all economic development and material advancement are utilized to advance the cause of Krishna consciousness, a new phase of progressive life arises. So here Prabhupada's talking about yukta vairagya, which is proper renunciation by accepting what's favorable and rejecting what isn't favorable. In many other spiritual paths, they have this idea that you need to renounce things absolutely. And some of the spiritual paths, they don't even have grihastas. It's just nothing but brahmacharya. But in Krishna consciousness, we've got the full spectrum. Everything can be used in Krishna's service. So Prabhupada spends... it's a short purport. He talks about how these materialistic people... a Krishna conscious person knows that this economic development of human society is but a temporary illusion. So as devotees, we want to remember this too. We can sometimes be absorbed in trying to further our career, or, might be doing our next vehicle purchase or buying a property, or, trying to find a job that pays better, or whatever we could be doing. And we want to at all times remember that the reason why we're doing this is to facilitate our Krishna consciousness, to facilitate Krishna consciousness for those around us, and ultimately to please Krishna, come closer to him and fix our mind on Krishna in loving service. And when we have that vision, then anything we do, even if it's seemingly an economic activity or materialistic, it can become Krishna conscious. The other points in the purport, like I said, it's a short purport. Materialistic person thinks that the person engaged in Krishna consciousness are crazy fellows wasting time by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. But actually, he does not know that he himself is in the darkest region of craziness because of accepting this body as permanent. So this is a pretty core principle of Krishna consciousness. It's said in Bhagavad Gita that's what's day for the transcendentalist is night for the materialist, and vice versa. And you can take this literally, or you can take it metaphorically. When you take it literally, Kadamba Kanana Swami described that when he joined the movement, he was literally staying up till 4 a.m. So he went from staying up till 4 a.m. partying to waking up at 4 a.m. to party for Krishna. We can consider Mangalarti a kind of party, if we like. But we can also take it metaphorically, which is that like the things that give us light for the devotee, the engagement in devotional service and the absence of hedonism, it's flipped for the devotee, whereas for the materialist, the Krishna conscious activities are a drag for them, and what gives them pleasure is the hedonism. So we want to take part in this flipping process, but also the materialistic person thinks that it also talks about illusion. So epistemology is the realm of philosophy that deals with how do you know what you know, and we ultimately, a lot of how we understand the truth of Krishna consciousness boils down to our personal experience. It's self-evident to us when we come in the association of devotees and perform service, we get a reciprocation in the heart from Krishna. And that reciprocation, that feeling in the heart, and then, the ways things play out, we can see certain things happening in my life. I'm like, oh, that's Krishna, facilitating, making my life easier or giving me some opportunities, or that's Krishna taking some opportunities away in order to facilitate me better fixing my mind on Krishna or taking shelter of the process. And the technical philosophical term for this is self-evident, but we can colloquially call it intuition. And of course, this isn't something that convinces other people. The other person, the materialist, is an illusion and thinks we're crazy. And just like when a person is dreaming and they wake up from the dream, when they were dreaming, they might have been thinking that it was real. But when they wake up, they know for certain that this waking life is more real than the dream. So in a similar way, when these materialists who think we're crazy actually wake up to the truth of Krishna consciousness, they will find that this Krishna consciousness is a deeper truth about reality than what they were previously believing. And building on top of that, there's an interesting phenomenon with near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. There's different kinds of out-of-body experiences, but some of them they'll go to another realm and they'll see other loved ones who've departed, and sometimes they hear music, and they'll describe that there's more colors than there are here. There's more sounds than there are here. Their senses work better. Their thinking is faster. And overall, they describe that the reality they experience when they go to this other realm is more real than the reality we have here, which I find quite interesting because that's totally in line with Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedic ontology or metaphysics, that this material life, these bodies that we inhabit, they're like a filter. They impede our consciousness, slow it down, and it's like a what do they call it? The simulation hypothesis. That's a quantum physics interpretation that says that we're living in a simulation, and it fits perfectly with the Vedic picture because according to Bhagavatam, where this material world is a place for conditioned souls to experience certain things which will facilitate them correcting their mentality and ultimately elevating their consciousness. So it's a simulation. It's not real in the sense that it's temporary, just like, you go into a video game and it's temporary, and as soon as the video game's turned off, all the consequences of what went on in the game are gone, and all that remains is the effect that it had on your mentality. So in a similar way, this material world is just designed to give us experiences which are meant to elevate our consciousness. If anyone has any questions, they can put them in the chat. I've got the chat window pulled up so I can see that. Trying to think if there's any other points I'd like to make. Here we're in, it's a continuation of Lord Kapaladev. Here's the name of the chapter. That Status Quo was the name of the canto. That I'm just on Vedabase. I'm not familiar with how it gives the names. This chapter is called Description by Lord Kapaladev of Adverse Fruitive Activities. And we're going to have, there's some pretty heavy verses coming up about materialistic life and the person who doesn't turn to Krishna. But yeah, so there's a pretty simple point in here, and it's a pretty critical point for understanding for advancing Krishna consciousness. I'll read the translation again. The misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent, and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which in relationship to that body are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. We've got that other story of, which one was it? One of those Charan Jiva personalities. Can't remember the name at the moment. It starts with a C. Who lives for a very long time, and some of his followers were saying, "Oh, why don't you make a hermitage for yourself to live in?" He said, "Oh, I'm not here for a long time. I don't need to worry." But of course, he's here for thousands of times longer than we're here. And even if we go away on holiday and we're just somewhere for a few days, we're extremely interested in making a comfortable condition for ourselves. So that's a difference in mentality between us and a very advanced devotee. Prabhupada did a lot of traveling, and he accepted very humble situations for his service. He would use a suitcase as a desk and accepted so much austerity, and he wasn't interested in any of these material things. He just wanted whatever was necessary for his service. So we can aspire to be like Prabhupada. No questions in the chat. I think I'll finish there. Just a few simple points. If we need to keep our goal on the higher thing and not get absorbed in the temporary too much. And we just, for the temporary situations and material advancement, we do our best to make them favorable for Krishna's service, and then we spend the bulk of our effort on the service. You don't want to spend all your life trying to set yourself up so you can serve nicely and never get around to serving. You want to primarily be serving and spend some of the time making nice arrangements for your service. Still no comments in the chat. Okay, cool. Thanks for tuning in.